Hi, I'm Rachel and I'm here to do an Author's Answer video. The Author's Answer series was started by AuthorTuber J.D. Archer and his writing group, where they posed a variety of reading and especially writing related questions to one another, which J.D. has compiled most of them, I believe, into a playlist, which I will link down below. I have been answering these questions sequentially, one per month for the last couple of years, and I'll link my own playlist down below. I am up to question number 39, which is to talk about my critique group. So this is a weird time for this question to come up, what with the coronavirus and the quarantine. For a little background, I am a member of a small writing critique group that's, I guess, technically sheltered under a big umbrella group called the Capitol Hill Writers Group. Sometime around 10 or so years ago, a Capitol Hill resident who was a writer wanted to start a writing group, and she has been diligent up until, I assume, recently about getting people together in the area who might be interested in forming smaller groups. And she's even expanded now to some other DC area neighborhoods, or she's trying to. And she would gather people up who had interest twice a year or maybe even more. And I expressed my interest and was able to join a group that formed in January 2017. I have no idea really how many other little groups under the umbrella there are, because we don't really do a whole lot, if anything, as a big conglomerate or whatever. I can only assume that some of the groups have disbanded after a little while as things go, especially in a city like DC where there's a lot of people who move in and out. I'm very fortunate that my group is still here. We've lost some members, we've gained a few more over time, but at the moment we're still sitting around 7, including some, veterans from 2017. We had a couple of dry spells where we didn't meet for a couple months, but usually we'd meet every 2 to 3 weeks at a Starbucks down in Capitol Hill until, of course, coronavirus hit, and everything's pretty much been a stop since then. We haven't been meeting online or even communicating that much. We exchanged a couple of emails in March when DC shut down, and just recently I tried to get the ball rolling again with emails to see if anyone would be available maybe to meet online. But unfortunately the group is not up for it. We have a couple of overworked parents in the group. We have some just I guess overworked people. One person even moved during this time. And one of our members is actually working on her debut novel, which will be published by Putnam, hopefully, in 2021. It's been interesting. I should want to talk to her more, really, because it's such a curious time, because obviously the publishing process has slowed down, too, because of coronavirus. In fact, I think I'll just read a short snippet of her email to us just to show what things might be like for authors in progress right now. She said, "I have been deep in the revision trenches. My editor was so late on getting me my editorial letter, like our contract stated that I'd have revisions completed by May 1st, and she didn't get the letter to me until May 28th. Yes, you read that right." So yeah, that was a little over a week ago now, so hopefully things are still chugging along. I'll try to poke her a little bit, I guess. It's just so curious to see what's going on with this. But in terms of actually doing anything beyond email, I was able to get one member of the group to have an informal, Google chat thing with me. And that's what we did just the other day. So yeah, that's where I am right now with my one critique group. I'm not currently involved in anything else critique related. I have been, during coronavirus, writing a couple of short stories and mostly just editing them on my own. We'll see if that was a good idea or not, I suppose, because I have sent a couple on submission. The big thing I am currently in the middle of right now is my fantasy project, which during NaNoWriMo I tentatively titled A Song of the Wanderers. and I've just repeated basically second draft revisions on Act 1. The group has seen 3 of those chapters, and I've incorporated some of their feedback. There are 8 more that they haven't seen. So this has thrown me into a little bit of a conundrum, because a couple of months ago the author's answer question was about beta readers, and in that video I sort of highlighted that for my literary novella, which I had critiqued through my critique group, well, the first thing I did was have it critiqued chapter by chapter by the critique group, and then I did some editing, and then I sent the whole thing to some beta readers and did more editing, and voila. Though technically that isn't entirely true, because I'd been working on the literary novella, The Corners, for several years beforehand and putting it through a gajillion drafts beforehand, even though they did help me pretty significantly, my critique group, with some developmental stuff chapter by chapter. But for a few reasons, I don't think this will work for the fantasy project. The first of which being is that we are not meeting. And we just don't have the system in place right now to be workshopping chapter by chapter. And another reason I'm thinking maybe this isn't as great an idea for this time around is that, well, I am still in quarantine. Hopefully for not too much longer. I don't know, I am furloughed. But anyway, at the moment I have the time, and I can just sit down and continue writing Act 2. And I'm wondering, rather than getting stuck in the eddy over and over again about redrafting Act 1, that I should use the impetus to move on, and that maybe this is not the venue for critiquing something chapter by chapter, at least not so early on. I mean, because technically, even for my literary novella, I didn't do it this early on. This is a very rough first draft and second draft in Act 1's case. So I don't know, I might just be doing different rounds of beta readers way down the line when I have a completed manuscript, where I can, I guess, hopefully still see if I can get feedback chapter by chapter, but it's a bit terrifying, really. Like, for some context, my literary novella is 12 chapters and about 33,500 words. And A Song of the Wanderers, Act 1, is 11 chapters and 22,665 words. And Act 2 alone should be much longer than that 22,000. It's going to be my first real novel, I think. That's still kind of freaking me out. I do have everything outlined in various stages. I have a skeletal outline for the entire project, and at the moment I have chapter by chapter of Act 2A mapped out. So that's making me pretty hopeful too, because one of the reasons I worked on the literary novella so long is because I didn't have an outline. To be fair, it's harder with literary fiction. That's my excuse. But basically I've rambled off the rails here, I guess. My main points to bring it back are, I do technically have a critique group, but unfortunately I don't know when we'll be officially meeting again. Though perhaps for my purposes right now, I don't need a critique group. I need to keep plugging away at my novel. And sometime in the future, when I have a completed rough manuscript, maybe I'll be reaching out to my critique group again to see if they might be interested in reading the whole thing. We have done that for a couple of members in the past, read their whole manuscripts. Although it's been on a case-by-case basis. Actually, I've never read anybody's full manuscript. Not from that critique group, anyway. I think the moral of the story is we do what we can, we adapt how we have to with regards to individual projects and external plot twists of global pandemics. And I hope that the writers and authors out there are finding some equilibrium in all of that right now, too. So that about covers it for me now. I'll leave links to the Capitol Hill Writers Group and so forth down below. In the meantime, for all of my writing, including like nonfiction writing, I've been using AuthorTube write-ins a lot to help keep me going to a clock. It's something that I started doing for NaNoWriMo, but the AuthorTube community just seems to be growing and growing, and these online writing sprints that last at least a couple hours usually are a bit of a hit. I never seem to make the recorded time, and I kind of like being on my own time anyway to pause and fast forward and so forth as needed. So yeah, once again, we writers are hopefully doing what we can do. I'll be back on Friday with my latest Friday Reads video, and in the meantime, thanks so much for watching, everyone. Keep writing, and I'll see you next time.